1998, which I was a part of, I voted yes in that matter. And I'm looking at the language, and I'm arguing that it is subject to interpretation. It says the legislature shall have the power to reserve marriage to opposite-sex couples, but it does not state or imply that the legislature has exclusive power or absolute power to reserve marriage to opposite-sex couples. I believe, in my interpretation of it, is the legislature having joint power along with the people of Hawaii in this matter, and I reference from scripture, but I take it from the King James Version of the Holy Bible in the book of Matthew chapter 10 verse 1, which states, "And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease." Am I to believe that the Lord relinquished his power to his 12? I say no, because later on he raised Lazarus from the dead. In the same way it is with the people of Hawaii and its legislature. We are hand in hand, joint heirs. We conferred upon you the power to act on behalf of us, because we can come here every single day. You guys come all the time. You guys know the language. But you got to work alongside with us to get things done. And vice versa. We, the people of Hawaii, need to work alongside with our legislators.
Thank you very much. Next up, please come up.
Chair Rhodes and Luke, members of both committees. I'm number 3905, and my name is Randall Allred. I'm here to voice my opposition to SB1. If this were simply a matter of equal rights, this measure would be another matter altogether. But what is being sought here is the redefinition, or rather deconstruction, of marriage as we've understood it. Governor Abercrombie is ignoring the prerogatives of the legislature, which reveals his clear scorn for the legislative process and for the will of the people. This legislature, despite a clear majority of voters who oppose this session, is voting on a bill that may not be debated or changed. To borrow a phrase from President Obama, that is not what America is all about. Marriage is not a right, but a privilege, and one that the state has direct interest in protecting, recognizing that the family is the basic building block of society, and that the biological family is the best way to provide for the general welfare and to protect children. Same-sex marriage advocates know that it will undefine marriage to the point that the family will lose its legal definition. They're quite open about this goal. About 8 years ago, the Beckett Fund, a think tank, sponsored a symposium of legal scholars on this issue. Most were in support of same-sex marriage, some were not, but their conclusions were startling. They all agreed that same-sex marriage would mean a huge fundamental change in American law. A sea change, as one put it, a dangerous train wreck, as another put it, and that it was impossible to predict its far-reaching effects. Fools rush in where even lawyers fear to tread sometimes. I defy anyone in the House to express any absolute confidence in this bill's ability to prevent religious discrimination. The governor and others have expressed enough contempt for religious values as to destroy any confidence in their goodwill or in the bill's resilience in resisting new hate crime laws, a pro-homosexual curriculum in the schools, and financial threats for churches that do not change their doctrines and practices. These issues are too fundamental to be decided in a bill that the governor clearly does not want to be examined very deeply. The fate of human liberty and individual conscience is at stake. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up, please come up.
My number is side. We will reflect the strong opinion in all the upcoming elections in Hawaii. We are the voters, the workers, and the candidates for the future of Hawaii. People can be what they want to be. We have aloha for everybody, but don't force their lifestyles and morals on our children and down the throats of our future. Keep country, country. Keep Hawaii, Hawaii. Keep family, family. And keep Hawaii sacred. Mahalo, and may God bless you.
Thank you. Next up.
Good afternoon, Chairman Carl Rhodes and Sylvia Luke and District Representatives. Thank you for hearing my testimony. My name is Joshua Cohen. I'm born and raised here in the island. I'm a voting resident from IAEA, number 3901. I can't forget that number. I've been telling everyone that's my number. I am a concerned citizen under the age of 25, and I strongly oppose Senate Bill 1. On my head, I have a hat. And this hat was given to me by my brother, and it's actually one of my favorite hats. I bought it fitted, Hawaii, $40, and I wear it everywhere I go because I have Hawaii on my mind. I have carried Hawaii with me wherever I've gone. I recently graduated from the university in Dallas, Texas, and I got my whole campus to say aloha and chihu. I was offered a job in the mainland, but I chose to come back and serve my community, my people, and this state because Hawaii is on my mind. This is my home. I am now a youth pastor at First Assembly of God and working with students from across this island. From Waianae to Hawaii Kai, I'm teaching moral values, challenging students to live their dreams, helping them understand their God-given identity, sexuality, and image. Why? Because Hawaii is on my mind. With the vast majority of your people, the people of Hawaii, speaking in opposition to SB1, I want to ask you, in light of the consequences of which we've seen in various states, is Hawaii on your mind? Are the minds of the keiki and the students across Hawaii and the public schools on your mind? Are the parents of these children on your mind? Business owners who flourish on building their company on traditional moral beliefs, are they on your mind? Is the future of Hawaii, education, health, commerce, and recreation, are they on your mind? This issue is of great importance and will deeply affect all parts of society. This is not an issue of progressive movement, but is a moral one. I understand that people of Hawaii are known for being late. We call it Hawaiian time, in which a lot of people suffered from in these past couple of days, I have sad to say. But Hawaii is not falling behind if we do not pass this bill, but it will show all the states that we are truly a state perpetuated in righteousness. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless.
Next up, please come up.
Aloha, my name is Janet Marlette. My number is 3890. I live in District 24. I stand on my submitted testimony and I add, I oppose SB1. We could argue all day about the intention of Article 1, Section 23 of the state constitution. The fact of the matter is that when we voted in 1998, we believed that you, the legislature, would honor our voices. We believe this because when civil unions came up in 2011, you stated in the Hawaii Revised Statutes, specifically 572C-2, and I quote, "The legislature finds that the people of Hawaii choose to reserve the tradition of marriage as a unique social institution based upon the committed union of one man and one woman." One thing that cannot be argued is that the people of Hawaii still choose to preserve the tradition of marriage. This bill is seriously flawed in the way that it lacks protection for the hundreds of thousands of people of different faiths who believe that the union of marriage is sacred between one man and one woman. You just can't invalidate that with a loosely worded bill that gives religious exemptions. This bill also has a lack of vetting to the point of not knowing what consequences to our society lie ahead for future generations. You have an obligation to the people who put you in office to study this incredibly divisive bill for more than the 1 week that you've been discussing it. Finally, Justice Levinson spoke about the legislature being given the authority to make this decision, and I agree with him. However, I expect the legislature to vote the will of the people who put you in office, and with the show of incredible opposition to this bill, I would expect your vote to be no to SB1.
And my number is is 3955. I come here to stand for my family values of marriage. And I remember when I was little, I had to move to Hawaii to live with my grandparents. I went to school here from kindergarten to graduation, and then I left for about 7 years. I had 2 children and realized, you know what, I don't want to raise my children in Seattle. I need to take them back home and have them raised in Hawaii. I am a mother, a wife, I have a wonderful husband, and I am a mother of 10 children. I am a professional homemaker. And my job is to make sure my children are safe. And my job is to impart into my children the values, the difference between right and wrong. And today I come before you because I believe that our children are the future. And what we impart into them now, the next generation will be better. I remember signing up my child, looking to sign up electives, and I seen the GSA. And then I couldn't understand that. It was a gay-straight alliances or something, and I didn't think that that was okay for my child. But I really believe that I came here to raise my children. And I asked my 10-year-old son, what did he think about this? He said, Mom, if they pass the law, do we have to move to Georgia? I said, no. And then he asked me again, Mom, well, I don't want to see 2 men walking around in Hawaii. Hawaii is not the place that I remember to see such a thing. So I'm here to stand in the gap for my family right now. And I trust that you guys would allow me to stand up for my family. Allow me to vote for my family today. Thank you for letting me share.
Okay, next, please come up.
Hi, my name is Josh Castro, number 3873, and I strongly oppose SB1. This bill is an attack on our religious freedom and an attack on the future of our children. I speak on behalf of my family. You know, growing up, my dad taught me things that my mom couldn't. And my mom taught me things that my dad couldn't. A man cannot be a good mother, and a woman cannot be a good father. There is nothing like a mother's comfort, and there is nothing like a leadership of a father. God called the men to be the leaders of the house, and this will just confuse the children. Right now, I stand here, and I mostly see adults for this bill, and you see us bringing the children, because that's what we stand for. I don't need to tell you what's going on in Massachusetts and Canada. You guys already heard that. You guys already heard what God said. You heard all these scriptures. I don't have to remind you guys on that. Hearing the governor say that the majority does not matter, it really hurts. And it shows something wrong behind it. And the people is going to stand up. And we're not going to let this go down. So I oppose SB1. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Praise the name of Yahweh, the one God Almighty. Shalom, shalom, shaloha, and talofa. Hi, my name is Ruth Tanuvasa. My number is 3952. In the name of Yahweh, the God Almighty, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I got down this bill. For Yahweh, the God Almighty, say, I am Yahweh your God, who created the heaven and the earth, and who created man and woman. and put them together to keep my oath, my covenant, and my commandments, and be fruitful and multiply on this earth. You shall not commit adultery, for adultery is homosexual, gay, lesbian, and all those sexual stuff. For I am a jealous God, paying back all the sins of the fathers and the mothers for their children's forever, to the third and the fourth generation, and showing all my love to the thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, Senate, and Governor Abercrombie, God does not respect anybody or anyone, you, me, or anyone, does not honor his commandments, his oath, and his name. He does not respect nobody. Therefore, listen, all you and all of CIA.
Thank you very much.
This is the bill that
Thank you
God
very much.
angry forever and hates
Excuse
forever.
me. You need to respect
Kill the bill,
Okay,
kill the bill,
can
and
somebody
kill the
go
bill.
and remove
Now
that
and
person?
forever and ever.
Okay.
Amen.
I'll take the next
Amen.
set of...
Everybody say amen.
Okay, again, if you folks are going to be disruptive and we're going to go into the wee hours, you know, we already had complaints from testifiers saying that they waited for a couple of days to testify. We're giving everybody a chance. Please respect the time limit. Okay, I'm going to ask for the next row of testifiers. Okay, please come up.
My name is Henry Guerrero. My number is 3911. And greetings to members of the House. What's the rush? The latest version of SB1 was dated 10/28/13, which was on the first day of the session. Not enough time to even figure out what was changed. Many people were not even aware of this revision. It was frustrating to those who testified in front of the Senate committee. In this debate, I've heard a lot of themes, and I'll speak about them. A lot of the legislatures thought that times are changing, it's inevitable, and if this is the case, then let due process take its course. Why do you have to force this? Why call a special session if it's inevitable? As elected representatives, please represent the people of Hawaii as a whole and not people in other states that have passed this bill. Contrary to what Senator Clayton He has tried to equate this bill to, it does not compare with interracial marriage because same-sex marriage is and will always be a moral issue, while interracial marriage is a social issue. Also, the legalization of abortion is more similar to the same-sex marriage in that the supposed right of a woman to abort will trample upon the right of an unborn baby to freely live by and teach traditional family values to their children and generations after them. Not enough time has been spent on addressing protections from the consequences of this bill. Parents have a hard enough time trying to keep their kids from being force-fed in the school system that same-sex partners are normal and accepted lifestyle. I ask that you do the right thing,
Okay,
do your
thank
job,
you very
vote
much.
against this bill.
Thank you. Next.
Aloha. Thank you for the opportunity to testify My name is Ron Shira. My number is 3918. My wife Cindy and I are strong opposition to Senate Bill 1 for many reasons that many have been already stated, but today I will focus on our ability to make crucial decisions, especially one that will greatly impact our children and the people of Hawaii. I'm a Christian, a husband, father of two, a grandfather, and a school administrator responsible for the welfare of many children and youth. Like you, making critical decisions is a major responsibility of what I do. I've learned not to rush on important and critical life decisions. This is something I share to young people that I'm responsible for, including my grandson. When faced with making critical, impactful decisions, I was taught to examine three things. First, a due diligence process to listen, understand, and talk to people that are affected and will be impacted by my decision. Secondly, I was taught to research, investigate, to confirm and validate the information. Third, to determine a responsible solution and make the decision. So step one, thank you for staying true to your word to allow everyone who wished to be heard to testify, no matter how long it takes. Step two, as I've followed these sessions, it is obvious to me that those that are in leadership and leading to pass SB1 have either done a poor job with step two, having little confirmation and validation to the determined impact on our state. There are too many unknowns. Or they do know the answers and understand that not sharing them might be the best way to pass this bill. Which one is it? I urge you not to skip over step two to rush to step three, which is your decision to pass, kill, or amend the bill. I believe that at minimum, more time should be taken, so proper vetting and examining this bill during the regular session, that's our step two. Please listen to the people who elected you to serve us in a tremendous state. Please uphold the principles of democracy and let the people decide. Thank you.
Okay, next up.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Miller, number 3943. Thank you for letting me testify. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was protection of the small businesses. Say they don't agree with the lifestyle, and let's go with a baker. Say they don't want to make the cake and put 2 grooms on the top or 2 brides on the top because their family, they've always been taught traditional marriage. Where's the protection for them? And there's supposedly protection for the pastors as long as it's not for profit. And where's the definition for profit in the bill? Is it as long as they say donation only, or is it open to interpretation where they can take the all the money that goes into the church and the bills that the church has, and as long as they're profiting, are they a profit? And the last thing is something that really struck my heart, is that I've been hearing a lot of testimony about everybody being loving and that all they want is equality. But my fiance, who's a very compassionate woman, she seen one of the members of the LGBT, they were distraught, and she went up and asked just a simple question of, are you okay? Because that's her heart. She has a heart for people. And they started talking to her, they were nice, and then they asked her a simple question, are you for or against? And when she said, I'm against, he turned hateful. And he just started getting real verbally abusive with her, telling her, I don't want to hear your talks about God. I don't want to hear anything about your Bible. And he verbally abused her for a couple minutes. And then at the end,
Hello, my name is Jim Miller, and I'm 3941. I know that you've heard just about everything that can be said on both sides. So I want to deviate from that, and let's talk truths, okay? Truth of the matter. The Bill of Rights was put into the Constitution to protect the people, okay? Not only from the government, not only from the, or should you say majority of the people, but also from the minority who are trying to shove things down the majorities and force them to do things that they would be against their rights. Another truth, our government did not get involved into marriage until the 1860s. Until then, it was a product of the church. And that's where it should have stayed. But lawmakers passed laws to keep people from having interracial marriages and having interracial sex. So instead of fixing the law and repealing the law, they figured, well, we can make money. We'll sell a license. Here's another fact. Black's Law, definition of a license. Granting someone the permission to do something that is wrong or illegal. The laws that were passed about interracial marriage were felonies. They weren't misdemeanors, they were felonies. So they decided to take money from people to allow them to do something that would normally be illegal. Here's another truth. Taking money to allow someone to do something that is declared illegal is a bribe. All right? And I'm out of time, so I can't go on.
Thank you very much. Next up.
How's it, guys? Aloha. My name is Joseph Paul Kale Kuaiva Akim. I am Native Hawaiian. I know you guys been up there all week, doing your jobs, and I too thank you guys for the patience and listening to us speak. I speak on behalf of my father.
Can you state your number first?
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. My number is 3996. I've been telling everybody. But thank you guys and everyone in the audience. Mahalo for all you guys concerned. The message to the people of Hawaii. I encourage you guys to try to collect and investigate. We do research on this bill because these lawmakers, they wanna hear us out, and they wanna know what is the right way to go. And I know that God will put them in their spot for a reason. And I learned all my life, God has a plan. So if you'd like to pray with me, the Lord's Prayer, you can do so. Our Father, which art in heaven.
I don't want to be disrespectful to stop it while you're doing the prayer, but you only have so many seconds.
I can do it.
Well, then I'm going to stop you if it's during that time.
Okay. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you guys for your time. God bless you guys. Aloha.
Thank you. Next up.
Aloha. I'm Jesse Showalter, and my number is 3993. I'm Jesse Showalter. I'm 29 years old. I'm married. I have 2 beautiful babies, and I'm a resident here in Hawaii. I'm a brother of a gay man and nephew of 2 gay aunties. And same-sex marriage here in the state of Hawaii. My opposition may seem a little bit strange since it hits so close to home, but I'm here to say that it is possible to disagree without hate, to stand firm in your convictions and still be loving to those that see things differently. Is that not the true definition of tolerance? At this very moment, not only is the definition of marriage being redefined, but also the definition of tolerance. What was once loving acceptance without agreement is now being redefined as forced agreement without a choice. There's hundreds of people outside, thousands on this island that don't agree with this bill. And they've been here day after day standing on tired feet and those very same convictions. That does not make them ignorant nor homophobes. We're not afraid of same-sex marriage, we just don't agree. And there's something else that we don't agree with, and that's the blatant disregard and gross usurpation of freedoms that's taking place right now. This bill has been pushed on the state by an emotive agenda that does not care about the effects it will have on all peoples and the freedoms of all peoples. How can you validate the giving of rights while simultaneously taking away rights from others? How can you validate something of that magnitude without first counting the cost? As questions are being asked and testimonies given, I hear a lot of I don't knows and let's let the court decide. We need solid answers and information before laws are passed. I wasn't old enough in '98, so I asked for my voice, not only my voice, but convictions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up.
Good afternoon. My name is Li Chen. My number is 3894. I'm from China and I have lived here for 12 years. I am American citizen and I have one boy and one girl. I apologize for my accent. This is my first testify at this Capitol. I'm very strong opposed to SB1. China is a very strong and a huge population country. Right now, there are lots of Chinese tourists and the students come to Hawaii. I think that is where I am from, that if same-sexual marriage is being promoted, where we lose many Chinese tourists and the students, because it is a very traditional country. Also, it is against the law to have a same-sexual marriage. My family and the relative friend live at Shanghai, China. If SB1 pass, how to them thinking? They will not send their children study at Hawaii school. China only have one child. They spend all money on focus their children for best education. Please do not pass SB1 or please let people vote. I beg you. I love you, my dear. Thank you. Hard work for us. Thank you for listening. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next up.
Good evening. My name is Kathy. My number is 3989. And mahalo for having me here to testify today. I oppose Bill SB1. I do not support redefining marriage to include same-sex couples, and this will take away my freedom of religion. Children of the same-sex unions are intentionally denied a father or a mother, not because of justice in the world, but as a result of two adults in a same-sex relationship who decide that what they want is more important than what children need. That's no justice. In the 10 Commandments, it says, to honor thy father and thy mother, and I truly obey God's word. This bill will take away my freedom of religion. I want freedom and the right to worship God and help change the people's helpless hearts when they're in need. If you personally feel that same-sex marriage should be established in Hawaii, then you should do the right thing. Let the people decide. My son is gay. He was molested at 8 years old. And I struggle. Mahalo again. And God loves you.
Thank you. Next up.
Hi, my name is Kelly Tixon. My number is 3982. Forgive me, I'm not used to speaking to a bunch of adults. I'm used to talking with children. So I'm here to oppose SB1. And as a parent, I'm concerned with the things to come after if this law is passed. The curriculum changes to come that are to permeate the textbooks. I can teach my children at home my beliefs. I can teach them Bible. But how long until my voice puts me in a position where I'm in trouble for being concerned about sensitive subject matter because it's no longer considered sensitive? I've seen the things that are going on in Massachusetts and other states, and I've heard a lot of testimonies, and I know you guys already know as well. I think by now a lot of people are aware, but when I was writing this, a lot of people don't know about the father that's arrested because he was concerned and wanted to opt out his child and was arrested for trespassing. I don't know a whole lot about the story, but I know there are many parents in Hawaii that would probably do the same thing. And then what happens to the people after that? And what happens to the teachers? My church has many outreaches. It helps so many people, and we love and respect all people. And we have a Christian school. Does that count for profit? And does it tie to the nonprofit church? I'm not quite sure. What happens if we are sued and have to pay for sticking to what we believe is truth? What will happen to our churches? What will happen to those outreaches? What will happen to those people that we won't touch because we can't? Our churches are not the building, they're the people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Spike Tanaka, and my number is 3902. I am opposed to SB1 because this issue is not about rights or equality. The issue behind SB1 is about redefining the institution of marriage between a man and a woman. This challenge is in direct opposition to what the Word of God says. It is seeking to undermine what God has established here on earth. I realize that these words may hold little consideration before a legislative body and even of lesser value in the political process today. Yet, I believe in a higher authority, a supreme God who speaks to the hearts of men and women like you, who are given authority by God to make wise decisions for the good of the people of this state. This is not a road that we will want to venture into, for it will lead to unwanted and undesirable ends. It will be a road with no U-turns allowed. It will set the course of our future down a path that we will regret. I'm asking you today to listen not merely with your mind, but with your heart as well. I know that you were elected to represent your constituents. I ask that you listen carefully to what they are saying. The future of this state lies in your hands. You have an incredible responsibility, but one that does not have to remain in your hands alone. I'm asking you to vote no on SB1 and to release your authority to the people to decide on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up. Is that the last one? Okay, so we're going to take questions from the group of testifiers who just testify. Any questions? Representative Carroll? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Hello. My number is 3912. Hi, my name is Holly Tanaka. I'm 19 years old. This bill is being debated for equality, but equality is not accomplished if the rights of one by their beliefs, by their services, condone a cause against their beliefs, you're simply taking on the exact kind of discrimination you are accusing them of. If the LGBT community has the right to live by the lifestyle they subscribe to, why can't the religious retain the same right? Or do you not believe in true equality? We don't want a right to hate, but to keep our right to maintain our religious integrity legally. I oppose this bill because of the negative effects it would have on our culture and community. The problem is not giving the LGBT community equal rights, because they'll live the way they choose to regardless. But the issue is forcing by law on this state the idea that homosexuality is right, when that is not by any means recognized as fact by everyone. But if this bill does pass, I'd like to have assured to us our religious freedom, as well as the right to raise children in our own faith without the government trying to impose their own culture-shifting agenda on us through the school system in violation of our religious freedom. Also, there are thousands of people who you represent asking for one thing: let the people vote. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Representative Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to call up Lee Chin. Is she still here? Am I saying it right? Lee Shen? Number 3894.
Okay. They're going to look for outside.
Thank you, Chair. I'll wait.
We'll wait a little bit. Okay, anybody else? If not, Representative Ward.
Thank you, Chair. Is Mr. Hughes here? Youth pastor? He's also talking economics with Chinese visitors then.
Okay. And yeah, what was the name?
The number, 3817.
Okay.
3817.
3817 yes. And Lee Chen. If they come back in, we can break and then ask them questions. Okay. Otherwise, yes, Representative Jordan.
Jesse Snowalter? He was 3993.
Yeah, he's coming up.
Oh, sorry.
Aloha.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you for joining us today. I was very intrigued with your written testimony as well as your verbal testimony, seeing that you have a brother
Yes.
that lives the GLTP lifestyle,
Yes.
as well as 2 aunts.
Correct.
How long were those aunts in your life?
How
your whole
long
life?
Were they? They are still in my life.
Yes, sorry. Sorry
They're
about
with
that.
us still, yeah.
So you grew up with them in...
Well, my aunt, when I was 15, chose her new lifestyle as a lesbian woman. And after dating around or finding the right person, has now been with her partner for 11 years.
And I notice you oppose SB1.
Correct.
I wasn't quite clear in your written testimony. You were referencing the California passage of marriage equality. Elaborate a little bit more of why you would be against SB1.
I'm in opposition to SB1 because of a few reasons. One of them being the grayness of the language, really. It does not protect rights of all people. And so I don't find it to be a successful or constitutional bill if it takes away rights or threatens rights of one party while giving rights to another. That's really one of the most glaring things to me. Yeah.
So basically, you're accepting of your family's lifestyles. But
no, and maybe I should have clarified that more as I spoke about tolerance. I love my aunts, I love my family, I love my brother with all of my heart. That does not mean that I accept every single choice that every single family member of mine makes. And so no, I do not believe that the lifestyle is correct.
okay. So I guess what I'm hearing from you regarding SB1, you don't feel it's balanced for both sides.
I feel it's very unbalanced. dangerous things you could ever see in a bill like this. When months or years go down the line and the religious freedoms and protections are taken away, and you would just see churches being put out on the street, people not being protected for their beliefs, and that is unconstitutional in my opinion. Something as dangerous as that not being protected with an inseverability clause is glaring and dangerous.
So I'm just going to ask you a pointed question.
Sure.
You don't have a problem with same-gender couples being married as long as we can balance it?
I do have a problem with same-gender couples being married. I do not agree with same-sex marriage.
Okay, but if this was to pass, you would like to see something more balanced?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Jesse.
Any other questions? Otherwise, sorry, Representative Brower.
Thank you. I was going to ask Jesse another question. Thanks. And we've had some great conversations upstairs. I appreciate you being here.
Hello.
To me, the bill's more a reaction about, today's times and a vehicle to lead us somewhere. The bill, in part, is a way of governing and, to some extent, keeping the peace because of a need that is arising. And I see the need arising with a lot of young people. Why wouldn't you want the state? I understand why you wouldn't want the church to recognize a union between your relatives who may want to be in a same-sex relationship, but why wouldn't you want the state to recognize that relationship?
Well, if you're talking about the bill itself being a vehicle, I would I would humbly say...
It's not a vehicle to lead us somewhere. I see the bill as a reaction to what's going on today in life.
I would agree with you. It is a reaction.
It's a tool to better govern and allow what I consider a large group of people.
I would disagree with you
some
on
reasonable
that.
rights.
As it is an action.
A large enough.
Sorry.
Being a fair size for a minority group, and just granting something I think is reasonable. But please continue.
I do agree with you that it is a reaction, but I believe it to be an incredibly emotive reaction. And the emotion has overwhelmed logic. The emotion has actually overwhelmed the rights of all peoples and is focusing on only the rights of some peoples. And so again, therein lies the imbalance that I disagree with.
And here's the irony. You and many people in the room agree on giving a same-sex couple every right, benefit, privilege that a heterosexual couple has in marriage, except that one 8-letter word. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's really about semantics.
I suppose you could say it's about semantics, but I actually enjoy your comment during that sentence that stated it's a privilege. So there's a difference between a right and a privilege.
But you're willing, and many in this room
those lines.
Will give every privilege that a same-sex couple has, except that one word.
If you're talking about federal benefits and rights, I tell you right now, one of the most heartbreaking stories that I heard was...
Okay, I think that's fine. Is he answering your question?
Well, I hope that I'm answering them.
I think, a lot of times the members are asking questions to testifiers and using that as just to express your individual opinions. I think members need to understand, at some point in time, we're here to listen to the public and not the other way around. So, let's get through the hearing. I mean, we've asked people to come back for the third day, and I think it's a disservice to keep them, in as much as we agree to be here as long as we can. It's kind of unfair for people to keep coming back. So, members, if I could also ask that, you not repeat the same question to the testifier, same again and again, the same kind of question. I think at this point in time, a lot of points on both sides have been made. So with that, are there any other questions? Yes, Representative Carroll.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha.
You may or may not want to answer this question, but I was just curious. I have a sister who's also gay, and you mentioned that you are not in support of the lifestyle.
Correct.
And I'm not sure if your sibling knows your position or if you still have a relationship with. I have a relationship with my younger sister. I guess my question to you is, what would it look like if in your wisdom, what would that legislation look like?
You know, I would love to answer the question. I wish that I was more knowledgeable to give you the language or the legislation. I'm sorry, I can't answer the question.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to ask you that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Otherwise, we're gonna move on to the next set of testifiers.
Madam Chair,
Representative
was Lee
Ward.
Chen found? Left.
She left.
Oh, okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, please step forward. Come on up. And thank you very much for your patience. And, we really want to thank the audience and the members for their patience. We have a long line of people who are waiting outside who want to be seated. If you folks have been here for a while, there are TVs waiting outside, and people who are in line are being let in as people leave. So if I could ask for your kukua, if you've been here for a long time, please allow other people to sit in and view the hearings as well. Okay, with that, please proceed.
Aloha, Chairs Rhodes and Luke, representative of the state of Hawaii and the people in the chamber. Apologize if I may speak fast, but there's a lot I want to say. My name is Jasmine Thomas. I'm number 3977, and I wholeheartedly support SB1. There's not much at this point that I can say that hasn't already been said. However, I do want to share excerpts from a speech made in 1970 by Brother Huey P. Newton, one of the founding members of the original Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. We must relate to the homosexual movement because it is a real thing. And I know through reading and through my life experience and observations that homosexuals are not given freedom and liberty by anyone in society. They may be the most oppressed people in society. We must gain security in ourselves and therefore have respect and feelings for all oppressed people. We must not use the racist attitude that the white racists use against our people because they are black and poor. Many times the poorest white person is the most racist because he is afraid that he might lose something or discover something that he does not have. So you're some kind of threat to him. This kind of psychology in operation when we view oppressed people and when we are angry with them because of their particular kind of behavior or particular kind of deviation from the established norm. I know many have wondered and maybe not have said aloud, why is the proposition outnumbered? Why aren't they here? Tell me, would you come to a place where people called you unnatural and immoral, where they didn't think you were human or worthy enough of the freedom of life? I didn't think so. This is my third day attending hearings. I've been saddened by so many children who parrot to the insecurities of their parents. This bill is not about sex education, school teachings. It's not about the fear of raising children in non-traditional families. It's not about stripping away rights from the majority. This bill is about the inclusive act of marriage and discrimination. As I understand it, the goal of the church is to serve the whole community, and as a secular nation, we have created laws to protect against oppressed groups. The church has no right, religion has no right in a secular society to circumvent these laws because they feel threatened or insecure about a particular group of people who may reside in their community. The religious exemption in SB1 is adequate. If you run a business, the only thing that should matter is the color of people's money, not the color of their skin, the language they speak, and certainly not who they love. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, please.
My name is Tepasi Tiani Filiunga, and my number is 3944. And I thank you, the House of Representatives, for being here and doing a good job. I've been here since Monday and coming ever since. I oppose the bill because it goes against morals. I know my grandfather wouldn't approve of it, and I'm sure your families, the leaders up there, if your grandparents was here, I know they would not agree with this. Father Damien in the front of the state capitol doesn't agree with this, but I know we have differences, and we're trying to live a life together in this 2013. I know you guys bring up the laws and everything, and I'm not a law person or anything like that, but I know that we can find some kind of someplace where we can meet in the middle so we can coexist. I know shooting each other is not the answer, and a law like this, just like in the riots in LA, that when things are not done in fairness, people go rioting. And I know that is not the
Hi, my name is Reed, and I strongly oppose SB1. My number is 3917. I would like to provide some clarification on some of the other side's rationale for supporting this bill, which may be the reason why some of you will be voting yes to this bill. I've heard examples of how same-sex marriage issue today is like the interracial marriage back in history, where so many people were opposed to it, but eventually it was allowed and accepted. I wanted to make a couple of things clear. The interracial marriage issue was between a man and a woman, a black man marrying a white woman, or a white man marrying a black woman. Now, if you want to compare apples, the issue, as far as I know, was never, and I repeat, never, the interracial marriage between a white woman and a black woman, or a black man and a white man. So obviously, this is not the same or true comparison. I've also heard several times about gays being a minority group. The representative from Hilo stated a few times of how Congress needs to ensure the equal protection of the minority group. I am not sure where, when, how, or who made this distinction in regards to gays being a minority group. So I Googled types of minority group. There are essentially 4 types, and there are 1, racial, 2, ethnic, 3, gender, and 4, religion. As for the life of me, I could not determine which of these type of minority group gays would fall under. But the most compelling thing for me was the characteristics of a minority group. And one of the characteristics is involuntary membership in a group, no personal choice. So how then can we consider gays to be called a minority group when it is by their choice that they choose to be gay? We, the Christian community, and non-Christians too, have always valued the sacredness of marriage, a marriage between one man and one woman, and it has withstood the passage of time. So why would you want to change and diminish something so sacred just to appease a group of people by choice, choose voluntary membership in a group by their own personal choice, which is contrary to a minority group, which is the involuntary membership in the group, no personal choice.
Next up.
Good evening. My name is Abel Malzahn. My number is 3903. Thank you all, members of the House of Representatives, for allowing us to have and to be a part of the legislative process. This is my 3rd day here because I wanted to have the opportunity in front of the House of Representatives to be able to speak what I think is important for me and my family. I'm a native Hawaiian, and I've seen many changes in my life, and I expect to see many more. But the change that we're talking about right now changes history of 2,000 years. Why must it be done in a matter of days? Why the rush? I'm opposed to SB1 for religious grounds, but I also oppose this bill because the manner in which we are pushing through this special session. I would think that with the number of people willing to testify, it would be clear to everyone in the room that this is an important issue for both sides, for all of us. We are people who are mostly attached to both sides of the aisles. I am encouraged that you've taken the time to listen to us, but I question the need for the special session. The question is, have you truly taken the time to study the issue from all sides? Have you had the time to deliberate between each other? Have you had the time to consider the effects this will have on individuals, on our community, and our loved ones in particular? This is not a decision for the people in the room. It's for generations to come. We are going to affect the lives of my grandchildren and their children. You may have heard us. I hope you're listening. You represent us. Please do it well. My hope is at the end of the day, you will decide to allow the people to vote on this incredibly complex and passionate issue. Allow the entire state to have a decision in this issue. I plead with you to vote no and bring these people in front of the entire state. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up.
Aloha, my name is Grace Miyamoto and my number is 3988. I am a mother, a grandmother, and have been teaching for the Hawaii values for my parents, grandparents, and ancestors. Today, I stand here as an elementary school teacher. Daily in the classroom, good literature is read to children. From books, children learn about the world around us, learn life lessons, and the beauty of language. One unit of study we've covered over the past few years is Cinderella. We learned that Cinderella stories were written throughout the centuries in cultures and from around the world. Always at the end, the prince marries the princess, or the maiden marries a magistrate, a male marries a female. Should SB1 pass, what will happen when the day comes when there is a book where a prince marries a prince or a princess marries a princess? Will I be required to teach such a book? If I don't agree with such a relationship of the characters and refuse to read it, will I be looked down upon or be penalized? I should have the right to say no. To me, the traditional family is the foundation of a strong society. My heart tells me that marriage should not be redefined. It has worked for most people in the past and in the present. The negative consequences will be great for our children. Please listen to your heart and vote no to SB1 for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Aloha representatives. My name is Legrand Gu. I'm number 3983. I'm a taxpayer and a registered voter. I was born and raised in the North Shore of Oahu, and I currently live in Waipio. And I strongly oppose Senate Bill 1. I'm here as a husband to a beautiful wife, and a father to 2 children and 1 on the way. Like others, this is my first time testifying here at the Capitol for a political reason, and I think that shows that we're here as a people of Hawaii to show our concern for this issue. I'm going to share some points that probably already been covered, but they're important to me as a father and a husband. I don't like that this bill is being rushed. This is an important issue that needs more time to be discussed and researched and get more input from the people of Hawaii. This bill, if passed, will have an everlasting effect on Hawaii. Our children will be affected by this bill. The same things that happen in Massachusetts will happen in Hawaii. Homosexuality and sex education will be taught to my children from a young age, and I will have no control over that. I will lose my right as a parent to have a say as to what curriculum will be taught to my children in school. SB1 does not protect religious freedoms that I now have. If this bill passes, I will be seen as a homophobe, a bigot, and ignorant because of my faith and support for traditional marriage between a man and a woman. It does not provide enough religious protection for churches and their facilities, and also for small business owners who will be forced to be a part of something that goes against their faith and belief. If SB1 is passed, it will only cause more division between opponents and proponents of the bill, because it does not provide sufficient protections for those that oppose same-sex marriage. It will give rights to one group while taking away rights from another. If we change the definition of marriage, it will affect the people of Hawaii and our freedoms. There are many flaws in Senate Bill 1 and many questions that are unanswered. I ask you, House representatives, to vote no to this bill and think of the people of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Aloha, my name is Jerome Noeau Kikua Mo'o Pono o Malama Mekalai Ha'o. My number is 3891. I am first and foremost a child of a loving Heavenly Father, as are we all. I am a native Hawaiian. I am a father to 3 wonderful children and a husband to my beautiful wife of almost 6 years. I want to start by asking you a question. Would you support a bill legalizing polygamy, legalizing incest, legalizing polygamous incest, legalizing a polygamous incestuous marriage? Would you support a bill legalizing sexual relations between an adult grandfather and a granddaughter, or an adult grandfather and a grandson? Would you support a bill legalizing sexual relations between an adult grandfather and any family member, or giving rights and normalizing sexual relations in marriage between a grandfather, his son, and his grandson if they were all consenting adult U.S. citizens? Would you support it being forced into the schools and taught to your children as normal and natural? Probably not. I oppose SB1 based on my morals and values. I believe in God and know that He exists from personal, intimate experiences. I know that as we follow and try to live our best to live in accordance with His teachings, that we will be blessed and we will find happiness despite whatever trials we face in this mortal experience. This is the basis and foundation of my beliefs, my morals, and my continue to push God out of our government and society and lose the foundation of morals and values upholding our rights and law. We are a nation founded upon Christian principles and the belief in God. The important decisions we make are based on our morals and values, whatever they may be. This is not an equal rights issue. They have the same rights as all of us and can marry any man or woman respectively of their choosing. This is a moral issue affecting all of us in all facets of life. If this bill passes with all its unknowns, I know I am not the only one who may be forced to leave Ku'uone Hanau and move somewhere that I know my rights are upheld. There is a direct relationship between the moral decay of the people and the corruption and collapse of their government. We need men and women who possess the rare combination of incorruptible.
Okay. Thank you very
Mahalo
much.
for your time.
Thank you. Okay, please come up.
Christopher Yanawaria, 3909. Aloha Chair Rep. Carl Rhodes and Committee of Judiciary, Chair Rep. Sylvia Luke, and the Committee on Finance. I'm a young adult, born and raised on Maui. Now I live here on Oahu, and I strongly oppose SB1. In the end, my argument doesn't have to do with homosexuality. I do not have a religious or theological argument against homosexuality, and I don't think ill of same-sex attracted people. And for anyone that really knows me and hopefully knows that I'm a thoughtful and kind person, but the central debate is to understand what is marriage and what it is not, and to being able to highlight the goodness of what traditional marriage brings to our society. Marriage has traditionally been defined as a union between one man and one woman, fundamentally ordered to procreate and thus share in family life and in a committed and exclusive relationship. Marriage has always been the best means of raising and caring for healthy and happy children. Having biological mother and father because of their health, having a biological mother and father because of their complementary way of parenting is the ideal situation for a child to grow up and become productive adults, which allows society to flourish. This reality is that children need a mother and father. In a brief that was submitted to the Supreme Court, which was submitted by social science professors, says, it is not simply the presence of two parents, but the presence of two biological parents that seem to support children's development. Experts have a long time contended that both mothers and fathers make unique contributions to parenting. And my time's running out, but I urge you to please oppose SB1. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Aloha. Before I start, could I just say if we could please continue to pray for Trustee Colette Machado, who is in ICU at Queens Medical Center. Aloha. My name is Tracy Howe. My number is 3925. I'm from Molokai. I was here on Monday, went home, came back again, and I stand here today in opposition to SB1. I'm a nurse for special ed kids in our public schools. And as a healthcare provider, my focus and concern today is regarding our children. The question is this in fact the best interest of our children? I heard testimony from a doctor, a psychologist yesterday from Manoa, and basically she said that, according to research, children of homosexual parents will not be affected. Well, I beg to differ, and I also would like to say, don't you think we need a second opinion? I do have experience. I may not be a doctor, but I'm a mother of 4 children, a grandmother of 5. My daughter Pili is here, my youngest, 15, and my third, Mo'opuna, Moani Le'ala, and we are 3 generations. There are 4 generations still alive here in Hawaii, and I'd like to share some information with you by Dr. Tracy Hansen, a clinical psychologist, that although same-sex marriage may be in the best interest of adult homosexuals, it's not in the best interest of our children. That fundamental differences help to explain why mothers and fathers bring unique characteristics to parenting that cannot be replicated by the other sex. Mothers and fathers simply aren't interchangeable. Although two women might be good mothers, but neither can be a good father. Same with 2 men being good fathers, but who would be a good mother? Think about our children. sexual and bisexual behavior? What kind of doors are we opening for our children? And what is next? Polygamous marriages or marital grouping? You know, what kind of doors are we opening here in our future?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you state your number again? Sorry about that.
3925.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauralie Baoya. My number is 3967, and I'm here today in strong support of Senate Bill 1. I was born and raised in Hawaii on the island of Maui. I identify as bisexual, and I am Native Hawaiian. The choice of love, the promise of commitment, honor, and for better and for worse should be of an equal privilege between same-sex couples as it is with heterosexual couples. I stand today with all my LGBT brothers and sisters for our children and for our communities. The state motto flies in front of this Capitol and represents what our state stands on and values. Ua mau ke'eo ka'aina i ka pono. The life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. In the end, we are all one. We are one human race. We're a one ohana. All we want as LGBT is to be respected and to be treated equally. Fears have become surmountable because of this bill and the perceived unknown threats. We as LGBT live with fear every day. Fear that our relationships are not validated. Fears that we won't be able to support our families at home and in everyday life in terms of benefits in relation to property, finances, and health. Fear that we will be ridiculed with another gay joke or worse yet, bullied even to death. This bill reinforces compassion, love, and acceptance, the values of our state. Passing this bill to allow for marriage equality for all of Hawaii's families would be pono. Now is the time to be pono. Now is the time for marriage equality, and Senate Bill 1 will provide all of us just that. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up.
Aloha, my name is Amy Rose Craig, and I'm number 3845. I'm a graduate of the University of Hawaii at Manoa and currently a master's candidate at Chaminade University. I teach special education in the public high school. I'm a Hawaii resident, and I've been registered to vote since I was 18, voting in every election held since then. First, I would like to mention personally my new friend Laura, who just spoke. I also have family members in the LGBT community. I have an HIV positive uncle who passed away. I'd like to express my compassion and my empathy. Additionally, I'd like to say that I am not opposed to legislation that supports the rights and the freedoms being protected of the LGBT community. I am, however, opposed to the 8-letter word marriage being used. I have friends who are transgendered and engaged, and I support them. Personally, I'm opposed to this bill, but I am not opposed to protections for the people in our communities and for the people in our state. I believe that these things should be looked at and taken the time over to be deliberated properly. I believe we can do better than this, and I believe that we need to make sure that everyone is taken into account. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next, please come up.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Karis Logan. My number is 3913. I would like to respectfully oppose this bill. As I have read over SB1, I have found a few areas that have not sat well with me. But because so many of my concerns have already been addressed, I would like to just focus on one. I was appalled to read in Section 8 that, and I quote, "There are many individuals who have significant emotional and economic relationships with another individual, yet are prohibited from legal restrictions from marrying. Therefore, the legislature believes that certain rights and benefits presently available only to married couples should be made available to couples comprised of two individuals who are legally prohibited from marrying one another." The example given was a widowed mother, which contradicted an earlier section which deemed that as a gender-specific word, and her unmarried son. At this point, marriage is completely changed as we know it. At this point, is there any basis to keep individuals from marrying, no matter how detrimental to the good of our society? whether economic or personal. As a layperson, I may be misinterpreting this part in the bill, but even if I am, I feel that because it leaves room for open interpretation, it leaves room for error. I respectfully ask you to consider the areas in this bill that seemed ambiguous and undefinable even by our Attorney General. Why are we going to pass a law at this time that leaves us with unanswered and unclear answers that was repeatedly deferred to our court system? I'm not against giving rights to same-gender couples, but would ask that you please not pass this faulty bill, or that you would at least make amendments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I take the next row of testifiers, and if the last row could stick around for questions? Thank you very much. Please step up. You can go ahead.
Walina, my name is Phil Byer. I am number 3997, a citizen of God's kingdom and a citizen of the state of Hawaii for the past 80 days. I'm the pastor of Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, Good Shepherd Preschool in Liliha, and the 4 congregations of Makamongai Ministries. And I must share with you, with all great love, respect, and compassion, I'm not sure I've ever felt so much sadness in a room until this evening. I look upon a group of people that God has created and given such enormous talent and skill, and it seems to be somewhat thrown under the bus, as they used to say back in my days in Detroit, Michigan. I come tonight, I've submitted my written opposition to SB1, and I oppose SB1 due to the government's attempt to restrict its citizens and religious groups from their right to freedom of speech and worship practices by attempting to restrict their services to members only. I oppose SB1 also because of the government's lack of intent and language in protecting a citizen's right to hold a conscience. As I look upon brothers and sisters of the human race tonight, let the joy of the Lord be your strength, as the Word of God says. That means being true to yourself, and I wish to spend just a moment to give you a few positive moments in my life of the last 80 days that I've been here on the island of Oahu. I want to thank the Junior Representative Ono and the colleagues for my 80 days of peace regarding the issues that we are confronted with. I've been able to celebrate the accomplishments of the students of Lanakila Elementary School, provide education to the young, attend religious meetings, community club meetings, spend my money along Liliha Street and School Road, and never once felt imposed that I was violating my conscience. God bless. I don't want SB1 to be passed in hopes that the government comes up with a better idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please come up.
Aloha, Chair Luke.
Aloha.
And Chair Rhodes. I'm Fritz Rolfing. I am number 3,887. I'm an attorney in private practice. I was a member of the Commission on Sexual Orientation created by Act 217 of the 1994 Hawaii Session Laws. That act, that commission was superseded by the commission created by Act 5 of the 1995 Hawaii Session Laws. I'm opposed to SB1. First, I point your committee to Section 8 regarding amendments to the reciprocal beneficiaries law. And I did have a hand in preparing an initial draft of that law some 16, 17 years ago. But the findings of the legislature are being stricken in this bill. The findings are, the legislature finds that the people of Hawaii choose to preserve the tradition of marriage as a unique social institution based upon the committed union of one man and one woman. The legislature further finds that As such, marriage should be subject to restrictions, such as prohibiting respective parties to a valid marriage contract from standing in relation to each other, in essence, brother and sister of the half, as well as to the whole blood, uncle and niece, aunt and nephew. There's been no presentation of any justification in the findings initially in this bill why this language should be stricken. I think this language fits in the common understanding of the people of Hawaii, and I've yet to see a reason why it should be stricken. So I urge you to vote no on SB 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Donald McNeely, and my number is 3945. I won't bore you with a lot of details because I know you probably all heard a lot, and everyone is very tired, so I'll just pick out one thing that I really want to share with everybody. I heard a testimony that said that homosexuality and lesbianism is something that is born into a person. And a lot of us here, some of them agree and some of them disagree. Well, let's turn to Romans 1, which has been read earlier today, and see what this has to say. God's Word, the infallible Word of God. For since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify Him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into the image made like corruptible man, and birds, and four-footed creatures, four-footed animals, and creeping things. Therefore, God also gave them up to uncleanness in the lusts of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves, who exchanged the truth of God for the lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions, for even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of their women. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Gail Sumner, and my number is 3858. I attend Praise Chapel Christian Fellowship in Waihawa. I represent our congregation's opposition to SB1. We are against same-sex marriage because God is opposed to it. Changing the definition of marriage to include individuals of the same sex will greatly weaken the family unit and will bring unrest in the core of the soul of many who choose that lifestyle. I want to share on the effects of homosexuality on the soul. Studies have shown that these individuals have sexual identity struggles and feelings of attraction of the same sex because of unmet emotional needs, feelings of rejection from their father and mother, feelings of abandonment, being teased. I read a testimony of John and Ann Polk who believed they develop homosexual tendencies because of pornography. John was attracted to the male body because he longed for his father's love. Many others were molested by the same sex or were touched inappropriately, and this creates an inner conflict and unnatural desires. Allowing same-sex marriage will only complicate matters for many that are searching for identity. Many need help and do not need to be pushed into homosexual lifestyle by society and be told that marriage is an option. I have a friend, Teresa Subtren, who lived a homosexual lifestyle for 25 years and had deep feelings inside of her where there was no peace, and wanted realized that her attraction for women was because she was searching for a mother's love. Her mother was sickly and could not take care of her. In closing, I strongly oppose this bill because same-sex marriage is unnatural and will bring more confusion to our keikis. Peace is a gift from God when we do what is right. Please vote no or let the people decide.
Thank you. Next up.
My number is 3940. I oppose SB1. Good day, with respect. For this same reason, a man sold his soul and his friend for 30 pieces of silver. Every yes vote sells your soul for a penny. For every yes vote cheapens the value of marriage. The body dies, but the soul lives on, even in remembering the errors made in this life while in hell. If you do not turn to this divine guidance as stated in our state constitution, then he will ask you why you sold your soul for a penny. Today is history. This penny has no value, this penny. But every yes vote is going to change this penny that was left on the street, ugly and discarded. But the value of each vote will make it priceless. Every yes vote from that panel, as I already dropped off 5 of them to the first panel that, oops, I'm sorry, that agreed to this bill. And I have one more for the governor. But again, from my soul to you, do you let these individuals take you to hell? Then they will be smarter than you. I oppose SB1.
Okay, next up.
(3895). My name is Travis Augustin, and I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Hawaii. I'm here to testify in opposition to the current version of SB1. There are collateral issues that it does not address. I'm requesting that the representatives adequately discuss how these issues will be addressed if SB1 becomes law, and refine the language to protect individuals. Is SB1 really about marriage equality or marriage equity? On its face, SB1 appears to simply grant same-sex couples the opportunity to enter into a marriage contract. However, the discussion does not end there. If SB1 becomes law, the governor and the supporters of SB1 will seek to achieve marriage equality by implementing an aggressive public policy to change the cultural norms of Hawaii. This process is known as marriage equity. Marriage equity is a process by which the advancement of the issue will come at the expense of others, individual rights to respectfully disagree with the issue. The governor has publicly expressed that SB1 is about marriage equity. My concern is that without adequate parameters, pursuing a policy of marriage equity will come at the expense of violating the constitutional rights of Hawaii's citizens. The bottom line is that SB1 does not protect an individual's right to respectfully disagree with same-sex marriage. And my fear is that an individual will be unable to freely express their beliefs concerning this issue without facing criminal or civil charges due to the public policy associated with SB1. For example, SB1 only provides a limited exemption, and SB1 does not protect the beliefs held by individuals belonging to those organizations or the contents of those religious organizations' teachings. This also goes beyond religious beliefs because there are individuals who respectfully disagree for a number of other reasons, like moral conscience. My bottom line is that the current version of SB1 does not address everyone's rights on this issue. Although everyone should have equal access and opportunity, at the same time, individuals should be entitled to respectfully express and hold their respective views without the fear of punishment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Yesterday, Justice Levinson made it clear that the legislative intent behind the Con-Am of '98 was to grant the power to the legislature to define marriage. Now, here's what I see as the problem. Although the legislature was crystal clear on its intent, that clarity did not get accurately conveyed in the question on the constitutional amendment. The people of Hawaii thought the issue of same-sex marriage was settled back then, only to find out now that the power we vested into the legislature is being used differently from what we thought we agreed to. What you're hearing from many testifiers is that because there's so much disagreement and confusion about this, give the people of Hawaii an opportunity to tell you once and for all whether we want same-sex marriage legalized or not. One of the concerns I've heard against allowing the people of Hawaii to vote on this issue is the idea of tyranny of the majority, that through the democratic process, the majority will be able to oppress the minority. Well, here's some numbers for your consideration. Hawaii United for Marriage states on their website that a statewide poll shows 54% in support of marriage equality. In a release by Equality Hawaii Foundation in January 28th of this year, 55% of Hawaii registered voters are in favor as well. And the only reason why I bring these numbers up to you is because I think it shows that there's a safeguard against the majority oppressing the minority in this issue, especially during a popular vote, because according to these polls, the opposition is in the minority. I'm asking that you please vote no to SB1 and give the vote back to the people so that we can decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, please come up.
Aloha, chairs, member, and representative. My name is Min Pan. I think that my number is 3A3A. I oppose SB1. I came to Hawaii as a foreign student, and now I am a proud American. I love this country because the traditional American value, the goodness and righteousness endured by American people. I believe that's the foundation of democracy, and that's what made this country great. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. As a PhD in economics, a professional researcher in economics impact analysis, I want to point out a simple concept in economics impact analysis. While we counting the possible increase of wedding because gay marriage is allowed, we need to also count the possible decrease of weddings, non-wedding tourists, foreign students, because gay marriage is allowed. Based on a conservative estimation, a direct revenue loss is 234 million if gay marriage is allowed in Hawaii. The loss is 4 times higher than the gain presented on Thursday, a study presented here by UH. Dear representative, what you decide today had great impact today and tomorrow. I urge you to think deep, why and why.
Okay, thank you.
I urge you to wait.
Thank
no
you very much.
to
Next up. Okay,
SB1.
thank you very much. Next.
My name I've written a poem about keikis. Keikis have played in waves of values. Keikis have dived in waves of values. Keikis have surfed on waves of values. If this bill passes, the waters will recede. The coral will be exposed, and a tidal wave of unintentional wrongs will devastate the values that once protected and kept safe the keikis of Hawaii. I'm really concerned about the special session on same-sex marriage because it fails to respect the democratic process. Democracy is not a disposable attitude of shortcuts. This is one of the most important issues of our times, and it has not been heard by a new generation of people because the same-sex marriage issue has not been discussed at length by the legislature since 1998. There seems to be undue pressure on this bill to bully it into law. Why haven't 34 other states called a special session on same-sex marriage? No other state legislature has approved the same-sex marriage in 5 days. There wasn't a supermajority vote to make the special session valid. The governor did not consult the legislature on choosing the dates for the special session. Why is this so urgent? This is not democracy. This is a fixed outcome that excludes people's input from the equation. Hawaii is very unique from other states in its culture and ethnic diversities. To overlook these considerations can lead to unhealthy and detrimental outcomes that will affect Hawaii's people and Hawaii's keikis for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Ben H. Pokipala Jr. My number is 3862. My strong opposition to SB1 does not lessen my love and respect one iota for those who would believe differently from me. I believe that this is just the wrong time and the wrong way to achieve the goals of those who support SB1. More time is needed to address this bill correctly. Senator Brian Taniguchi's response to my recent email was, Mr. Pokipala, I believe I am elected to represent my constituents as best as I can. I do not believe I must always vote according to what is perceived as what the majority wants. For example, I have always been opposed to the death penalty, but I believe that a majority would probably support it. In cases of civil rights, which I think this is, it is not pono to only rely on a majority popular vote to provide justice. The whole civil rights movement of the Black Americans is an example of this. My response to Mr. Taniguchi, you need to resign. Yes, I do believe that you need to represent the majority of your constituents. You are not elected to represent your individual sentiments. You are elected to represent the people, your constituents. If you cannot do this, resign and find someone who can represent your positions that you can nominate, elect, and cast your vote for. You are making judgments about your constituents that they do not know what is pono or right for themselves and their family. That you as their senator know better. This is an insult. And yes, I do choose to take offense at your high and mighty, all-knowing position on this issue. I do expect that you are documenting all of your contacts, whether by email, phone call, or in person, to validate that your vote is a reflection of the majority of your constituents who, yes, do know what is pono and right for themselves and their family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, please.
Hello, my name is Evelyn Chow and my number is 3942. I stand here before you today as a youth council member of the GSA of Hawaii and as the president and founder of the GSA club at my school, in strong support of Senate Bill 1. I've been watching the testimonies on my television since Monday, and I've heard many different variations of arguments against same-sex marriage, one of which was that it would hurt our younger generation. But the thing is, the only thing that would be hurting our younger generation right now is being on the wrong community. And this is more than just a bill to me and to so many other people. This is about equality, and equality is something I find extremely crucial to support. This is about the right to hold my girlfriend's hand when I walk down the street without getting any rude remarks, or condescending stares. This is about the right to marry the woman that I love one day when the day comes. And this is about the right to be there in that hospital room with her years from now when visiting hours are for family members only. I want to know that they'll be able to let me in. Please don't take away that right from me or from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
(3979). My name is Leila Benson, and I oppose SB1. There are many tenets of SB1 that I oppose, and much of it has been heard in the last week or so. And so I'm going to talk to just really one topic, and that's the topic of identity. Identity in relation to ethnicity and identity in relation to gender, not necessarily identity in relation to heterosexual or homosexual sexual orientation. If passed, this bill could alter the way that we document ethnicity on our birth certificates for those children born to same-sex marriages. And it's really important to me that ethnicity is truthfully documented according to the biological DNA of that child. And it's important because of the identity construction for that child from birth through adulthood. Because as we know, ethnicity means a lot to us in Hawaii. And so that part of it is very important to me. The second part of the birth certificate reservation that I have is in regard to how we're going to know for those agencies who do use ethnicity, and I'm not just talking about Native Hawaiian agencies like from the legacy of Pauahi or Lili'u, but other ethnicities like Filipino and Samoan and other ethnicities who have scholarships and things who count on the true biological ethnicities of these children and growing into adulthood, how that might reflect on the funding to those such programs. And I don't think that's fully covered in this bill. Another thought process is in relation to the idea of gender-neutral forms and language relating to those forms and how that might psychologically impact our youth as they grow up in a gender-neutral society. And I know there could be implications for that. I don't know if they're good or bad, but just not knowing is enough to stop the bill where it is and find out so that we know that the best decisions that we're making is for the greatest good impact for our society and not just for a few people. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Members, we're going to take some questions at this point. Questions? Representative Har.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I please have Mr. Rolfing up? Good evening, Mr. Rolfing. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your testimony.
Good evening, Representative Har.
I was very intrigued by your testimony because you are the first person to talk about this section, page 12 of the bill, lines 15 through page 13, lines 3. Can we? I mean, you just talked about it being stricken, but I'm not really clear on what you were getting at with respect to the actual effect of it being stricken.
Well, what the bill is doing is it's striking this as a legislative finding, and it's also troublesome that it is striking this finding regarding, as an example of restrictions, the restriction on valid marriage contracts do not allow a brother and sister to marry. And then if you go back to page 7 of the bill, and there's an additional modification of the degree of relation in which people stand to each other. So you're striking a finding on relationships, the nearness of family relationships, and now you're modifying this because now gender is not a factor in a marriage. And what I am concerned about is I don't see how this new language can stand even a rational basis test challenge under the equal protection laws if they succeed in that challenge to the law, then what is left of saying, how can you then say, but a brother and sister cannot get married? if the brother and brother can get married because there's no rational basis for the distinction. So I think you're treading on thin ice because you are starting to obliterate certain distinctions that have held up over the test of time, and you're doing this in kind of a haphazard way.
Okay, let's take a step back. You testified in the beginning of your testimony that you had sat on a commission, and I'm sorry, I just lost your testimony. What number were you again, Mr. Rolfing? I apologize.
I'm 3887.
3887.
If I remember correctly.
Okay, so what was this organization? You said that you were a member of some commission?
Right. Act 217 set up a commission on sexual orientation to examine the marriage laws and determine what type of whether changes needed to be made. We got started, and then a lawsuit intervened regarding the makeup of the commission, and the legislature reconfigured the commission, and so I did not go on to the new commission.
Okay, so when you were a member of this Commission on Sexual Orientation created by Act 217, did you in fact participate in that group?
Oh, I did. And let me just point out that Section 6 of Act 217, our task, the purpose of the commission was to examine the precise legal and economic benefits extended to opposite-sex couples, but not to same-sex couples, examine whether substantial public policy reasons exist to extend such benefits, and recommend appropriate action. So we embarked, but we were not able to complete our work.
Okay, so there was no actual report that emanated from that particular task force?
That's correct.
Okay, so now getting back to this language. I mean, I too have some concerns. I mean, I think that I understand what the intent is, but I also understand we talk about unintended consequences. And I agree with you that with respect to striking out in an attempt to be gender neutral, we are now actually condoning relationships. And I think and a lot of opponents say, oh, well, you know, this could in fact lead to polygamy or incestual relationships, and proponents roll their eyes and say, that's ridiculous, that's not what we're about. And I
Right, the
I don't
slippery
disagree with
slope
them.
argument.
But what I'm concerned with right now is the actual wording of this bill. I think that if you actually read this bill literally, it does condone those types of relationships.
Well, it does. It weakens the basis to argue in court, which is where I spend a lot of my life, against somebody who is challenging this. So it doesn't say it's okay, but you've lost some of your mojo, or whatever, you know, ability to refute and stand on what has come in the past.
So what would your suggestion be? You're as an attorney, Mr. Wolfen, what would your suggestion be with respect to this section? Because actually, if you go down on page 13 and go down to lines 4 through 10, I think those lines are actually unnecessary as well. If we're going to strike out lines 15 through 3 on page 13, I'm even confused with the additional language that follows.
Well,
with respect to the example.
Yeah, you know, again, this is language that was explaining why we were going to a reciprocal beneficiaries relationship, and what the legislature was trying to do at that time, and I did get involved in preparing an initial draft for the judiciary chair at that time, which he modified and went through the legislature. But the idea was that rather than having the legislature decide, are we going to give approval to same-sex relationships or not, what I understood this bill to be trying to do was to say there are other relationships in the society besides marital relationships, the common definition of marriage being one man and one woman, and we want to allow people in those relationships to have benefits.
Okay, this is because this is amending Chapter 572, which is the RB section of the statute.
Correct.
Ms. Young had testified earlier that this should not be the section of the statute that should be amended. She said it should be ask you have you heard some of the debate? Have you heard what the Attorney General, admitted that the religious exemption applies only to solemnization? Then yesterday we had Judge Elwin Ahu, who essentially talked about public accommodations because it's silent in this bill. It still is a factor. It's still an issue, and it would probably be litigated.
Yes, I would agree with Judge Ahu.
So what would your recommendation be in order to beef up these First Amendment protections?
Well, I think we first have to recognize what's going on. When you redefine marriage to include what I call a single-sex option, it's people of the same gender, you have changed. You have changed a social institution. You've taken a huge step, and marriage being one of the oldest and most widely respected types of preferred, specially protected relations. So you now have given a new status to a certain type of relationship that for many years was not favored, and since the 1970s for Hawaii has not been prohibited by law because we passed the Model Penal Code. But once you give that status to that relationship, it's very difficult to carve out and protect people who disagree and disagree emphatically. But I would say that what's here in terms of the religious protection language, pardon the expression, it's just a fig leaf. It's threadbare, and it needs to be far, far more robust to protect what seems to me to be a lot of well-meaning and well-intentioned people from being caught up in the machinery of civil rights enforcement and the educational establishment once you have given the stamp of approval by the state of a certain type of relationship that is, I guess, subject to dispute as to how socially beneficial it is.
Okay, so in looking at this bill as an attorney, do you, as the bill, if it was to be passed as is, with no amendments, with respect to this public accommodations issue that continues to be out there because it's silent in the bill, in your legal opinion, would there be possible challenges to some of our faith-based organizations based on their role in our communities, et cetera, as a public accommodation?
Absolutely. The bill seems to, I guess understandably, the first thing people think of is our church is going to be required to solemnize same-sex marriages, and that is there is an exemption or protection in the bill. But churches are so integrated into the community in terms of providing charitable services and halls for wedding celebrations and educational work and adoption agencies, and all those activities by churches are going to be, churches and faith-based organizations are going to be impacted, because as soon as they start drawing distinctions between same-sex couples and opposite-sex couples, they're going to be subject to civil rights prosecution.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Rothen.
Thank you, Representative Carroll. Oh, okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Chair.
Representative Jordan, followed by Ward.
May you stay, please? Listening to that, there's also been some conversation in the last couple of days regarding the exemption that Connecticut uses. Do you have any knowledge of what that exemption may be?
I'm basically familiar with the Connecticut language. It's far more extensive than the language in Senate Bill 1 in terms of protecting religious freedoms.
Okay, so would that be usable here, or do you think that wouldn't be usable in this state?
Well, I think it's an alternative that should be given careful consideration. I think even the Connecticut faith-based organizations. And then there are individuals who, for personal reasons, would like to opt out of participating in certain activities such as wedding photography, wedding cakes, these types of things. And I think the language in the Connecticut statute could be expanded to protect, small businesses of 5 people or less. So I think that would be helpful as well.
Well, my understanding is, I was trying to understand the Attorney General the other day, and then several other people that have, tried to make comments on this. I've been trying to research this Connecticut exemption, and what I was trying to glean off of some of the other attorneys or the AG was, I'm sorry, I'm going blank. We have a public accommodation law here. We have a public accommodation statute here that if that's violated, it goes to a specific, department, Mr. Hosijo, and they present a ruling, which could then possibly go to a court, correct?
Correct.
So we're talking about hierarchies,
You would
right?
appeal the Civil Rights Commission's ruling, or there'd be a right to sue letter coming, and then the parties would proceed to a court.
So when I'm trying to understand this Connecticut exemption, I think Connecticut's is kind of very narrow. And that's only because when you start to go to their hierarchy, they have a stronger constitution than we do here in the state of Hawaii. And I'm only trying to correlate that with, because their constitution seems to be even older than the United States Constitution. So that's what I'm trying to correlate in my brain.
Right.
When I keep hearing the discussion of possibly using the Connecticut exemption, would that even hold up to ours? Because we don't have a stronger constitution like Connecticut does.
I don't know the entire Connecticut Constitution, so I don't think I could address your specific concern, but I don't see, and I think I agree with you that I don't think the Connecticut protection is substantial enough. I think it's a move in the right direction, but I think it could be improved.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Ward.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Rolfing, we have just entered the 38th hour of testimony. Having that hour having arrived, I need to hear street language. When you said there's no rational basis, what were you talking about in terms of brothers marrying brothers in this? It just went right over my head.
Yeah, under equal protection analysis, under the Constitution, there are various standards that legislation that makes distinctions has to pass, constitutional thresholds under the U.S. Constitution. Certain types of discrimination are called invidious, such as racial discrimination, and that type of discrimination is held to a higher standard is applied by a court evaluating whether the statute under attack is a violation of equal protection. And that when there's a racial classification, the standard is compelling state interest. And you might recall that was the language used by the Bear Court, because the Bear Court, the Bear versus Lewin Hawaii Supreme Court plurality opinion, and essentially it became the guiding opinion, said the limitation of marriage to one man and one woman is a classification based on sex, and under our jurisprudence, under our Constitution, because we have an equal protection clause in our Constitution, distinctions made on the basis of gender also have the compelling state interest test applied. In the U.S. Supreme Court is applied in the cases of gender distinctions an intermediate standard, and then for any other distinctions, they apply the rational basis standard, which is simply, and it's usually fairly easy to meet. All you have to show is the distinction you're making has some reasonable basis. And what I'm saying is it's difficult for me to see a reasonable basis once you say a male can marry a male, for you to make a decision say, what purpose is that trying to accomplish? And it's difficult to see what purpose there would be because, as I would understand those restrictions in our marriage statutes, the purpose is to protect children from genetic issues that come about when a male and a female of close relation, have a child. But that is a biological impossibility for two brothers. So what is the purpose of making that distinction any further apply in our marriage statute?
But was your intent to keep that in the legislative finding on the page that you cited with Representative Hart earlier? Was the notion to keep that finding in this bill?
I think that finding would be a good one to keep in the bill. Even if you're going to knock out the finding, although again, I think you ought to have a basis as a legislature to change legislative findings of previous legislatures and previous acts. I mean, in Act 217, there are 2 pages or 3 pages of findings by the legislature. You may have been in it, the Representative Ward, at the time, and one of the findings is that the Hawaii marriage licensing statutes were intended to foster and protect the propagation of the human race through male-female marriages, and so that's still a viable act under Hawaii law. Perhaps you need to go back and strike that language, but I would be very concerned, and I would suggest you don't strike the language that says there are some distinctions that we can still make, and among those are distinctions based on family relationships. Okay. You still might have the problem, but at least you're not blowing out all of your findings
but I think people
and leaving the door open.
It's not going to go beyond men marrying men and women marrying women, but you're saying that it could potentially go beyond that with brothers and brothers if we don't put some understanding or finding within the statute for future consideration by future legislators, etc.
Right.
Okay, I understand. Now I understand that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Fale.
Thank you, Chair. I just curiosity, Mr. Rolfing, if we talked about when we had the testimony from the Attorney General, we talked about a number of issues that had to be left up to the court. If these issues involved a small individual or a small business, how much would it cost that small individual or that small business to carry through a proceeding that involved litigation in court?
Well, lawyers like me don't come cheap, and it's almost a twofold problem. Not only are lawyers expensive, so you need to pay a lawyer to defend you. The public defender's office is not available to private individuals in civil rights complaints or civil disputes. But as I understand the Civil Rights Commission's policy, they do not consider whether the effort they're making to enforce what they say are the civil rights laws, they don't consider whether that is a violation, that their very enforcement is a violation of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, religious freedom. They say that's not, you can take that up with a court later on, but that's not our kuleana, and so we're not going to consider it. Give us your records, give us your stuff. We're going to go and do an investigation to see if you violated this specific civil rights statute. So you can imagine you're going to have to pay to defend in the Civil Rights Commission. That could easily, be from $20,000 to $30,000 to $50,000, and then at some point you may be able to go to court and argue again, pay more money and argue that these civil rights statutes, at least as they're being applied to you, thank you, are being applied in violation of your religious freedom. So it's an expensive process, and so it's something that the legislature should really take a hard look at and be very careful, because once you open the floodgates, it's going to be very difficult for people to defend themselves.
Okay, thank you.
No, just a follow-up question for that, sir. You're saying for average regular should just ignore some of the flaws and issues that we have in the law and just let the courts decide. I mean, that could be very problematic if the legislature doesn't take a proactive position to resolve a number of these questions and issues that we have.
Precisely because you will have people that cannot afford to defend themselves, so they will just comply with the demands, even if the demands are violating their religious freedom.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else? Oh, Representative Kobayashi.
Hello.
Hi, Representative.
I've been reading page 7 regarding what you said about the degree of relationships between parties who want to marry. On page 7, line 3, there's the word not. And my reading of this is that your reference to brother and brother is stricken by the word not. I would
go ahead.
Ask that you perhaps reread that page, including the line 3 and the word not.
Representative Kobayashi, I think I understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand this paragraph to be saying is essentially the prohibition of people standing in a close degree of relationship continue to be prohibited from marrying. Is that your understanding of what it says now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And so what I am saying is that if this is considered a prohibition of a brother marrying a brother, I question whether it meets the equal protection standard of the rational basis test, because I'm struggling to figure out what is the governmental purpose to restricting a brother from marrying a brother, a sister marrying a sister. I don't see what the basis of that is, and if you have a idea of what it is, I would be very interested to hear it.
Well, aren't you speculating that number one, the case will be brought up on the basis of a rational basis test? It could not.
It's possible it would never be brought up, but I suspect, given the number of individuals in our society, that at some point it would be raised. The Department of Health would be confronted with the issue, and it would have to resolve it one way or the other. And if it resolved it in the negative, that litigation would ensue. So it's not a guarantee. Nothing is a guarantee in life. But I think it's a potential issue that could create problems that I suspect the legislature does not want to create.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
What was that? Representative McDermott?
Hey, Mr. Rolfe, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Representative McDermott.
Back to the brother and brother. I'm never, nothing ceases to amaze me anymore. If these two fellows want it, they're both widowers or never married, and they want to avail themselves of certain benefits, retirement, or hospital visits, or something of that nature. What would our objection be to a situation like that, to two brothers marrying?
Well, that is kind of the question that I'm asking, and the reciprocal beneficiary statute actually was an attempt to address that issue, taking the sexuality issues out of the relationship. There might be a need for people to have benefits, whatever the reason was that they could not avail themselves of the man-woman definition that applied. And so under reciprocal beneficiaries, a brother and a brother could enter into a reciprocal beneficiaries relationship, get these certain benefits. But I do agree, it sounds like, and you are suggesting a reason why if two brothers wanted to gain whatever additional benefits marriage, the term marriage would mean, they might want to challenge restriction on siblings getting married.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions? If not, thank you. Okay,
Representative Jordan.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not sure if he can answer this question or not. And I wasn't sure if there was another attorney that testified in your bracket. So I'll just pose this question to you, sir. Could the enactment of this bill constitute a material change in the way employers provide prepaid health insurance? I'm not sure if you're
Well, I think, at least in terms of Hawaii, I would think that employers, as of this moment, before the passage of this bill, are required to provide health insurance to civil union partners. Because, as I understand the civil union law, those in civil unions have all the rights and benefits of marriage. And so I wouldn't think there would be a change, because as long as somebody was in a civil union, right? It would be the same whether they're in a civil union or a marriage, because they should be getting the benefits of Hawaii's prepaid health law already.
Well, we currently have an exemption to the ERISA.
Okay.
Is that going to have any play in this? Because I haven't heard it brought up in the last few days.
Right. And I think that's a very good question. And I don't hold myself out as an ERISA lawyer, so
Okay.
I think we'll have to have somebody more knowledgeable in that area of employment benefits to answer that question.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll let the testifiers go.
Madam Chair,
Oh, you have
I have
somebody else?
the Chinese economist Ming-Ling Pan, I believe her name was. Miss Ming-Ling.
Yeah, please come up.
Yes.
Thank you for being here and giving us an economic perspective on something that otherwise we were having. The author of the LaCroix study, Professor LaCroix himself, came here. I was speaking about someone who had a mild stroke last night here, and I missed some of your testimony, so if it's repetitive, forgive me in asking the question. If you compare your study with Sumner-LaCroix's study, how do you explain the difference? And if you could explain your methodology. I wasn't able to discern how you arrived at your numbers. Just give us the numbers that you have.
The number we got is strictly from the state statistic compared to U.S. mainland visitor come here. Asian people come to Hawaii for honeymoon is much more than the U.S. mainland people come for honeymoon. So this in 2012, there's 385,000 people from Asian country coming to Hawaii for honeymoon. So the total spending is $700 million. That is just for the Asian people. But if you look at U.S. people that come to the visitor for just for honeymoon, is in 2012 the number is only 54,000, so it's much lower. And in Hawaii, we know that they have foreign students, and they come to Hawaii, and they also have contributions. So adding up all this, and then you consider that they may, because all these Asian countries, if they consider Hawaii or other state, but they choose not coming here because the gay marriage, and then they would reduce the number to come to Hawaii, and then we calculate that. That is the methods.
Your 385